In fashion, Rick Owens is an icon, a prophet of dark glamour, brutal elegance, and raw minimalism. But before the cult following and before the empire, he was a struggling artist, cutting patterns on his floor in a one-bedroom apartment in Hollywood. This is the story of how one woman, Michelle Lamy, saw not just his art, but his value. And together, they turned an underground aesthetic into a global business empire. So let's get into it. The early struggle. Before the Paris Ateliers and Global Fashion Week headlines, Rick Owens was a shy, reclusive kid growing up in the small agricultural town of Porterville, California. His father was strict, his upbringing conservative, Catholic, orderly, and quiet. There's little room for the type of creative rebellion Rick would later become famous for. After graduating high school, he moved to Los Angeles and enrolled at Otis College of Art and Design, but he quickly dropped out. Fine art didn't interest him the way structure did, so he shifted into technical fashion training, studying pattern making and draping at Los Angeles Trade Technical College. There, Rick learned the architecture of fashion, the way seams create silhouettes and fabric behaves like sculpture. That knowledge would become the skeleton of his later work. But talent doesn't equal success. In the early 90s, Rick wasn't just unknown, he was nearly invisible. He worked out of a cramped apartment off Hollywood Boulevard, cutting patterns on the floor, living month to month. He produced small collections in-house and sold them to niche local boutiques like Charles Gillet and Maxfield. There were no investors, no PR team, just him, his vision, and his hands. What Rick was making at the time was radical: distressed leathers, raw hems, elongated silhouettes. His work didn't fit into the flashy, over-commercialized fashion of 90s LA, and that was a double-edged sword.
Also, like, kind of the punk do-it-yourself ethic, where that's where the raw edges come in.
It made him unique, but it also meant the buyers, the press, and the capital just weren't coming. He was essentially operating a one-man brand before that was a thing. He didn't have a studio, he didn't have staff. Most of his early pieces were literally hand-sewn or constructed in tiny production runs. He was creating a world, but with no infrastructure to support it. This was Rick's starving artist phase, not just emotionally, but financially. Rent was a struggle. He couldn't afford proper materials, so he scavenged offcuts and leather scraps from garment district leftovers. He had no business plan, just an uncompromising aesthetic and a quiet belief that there had to be room in the fashion world for something darker, slower, more severe. In this era, Rick wasn't building a brand, he was surviving. And yet those years taught him lessons many entrepreneurs skip: how to design within limits, how to develop a consistent visual identity, and most importantly, how to be radically self-reliant. But self-reliance has a ceiling. You can only bootstrap so far. What Rick needed, what every visionary needs, was someone who believed in the potential of the product and the person behind it. Then came Michelle Lamy, French-born, enigmatic, and already a force in LA's underground scene. She owned Les Deux Cafés, a hybrid restaurant club fashion lab where artists, thinkers, and misfits gathered. When she met Rick, he wasn't yet a brand, he was an idea.
Yeah, one of Michelle's most appealing traits, like we all know, is the way she expresses herself so instinctively. But every once in a while, I'm trying to, like, when there's something that I really want to know the answer to, then I kind of try and pin her down on it, and then she senses that and evades me even more.
But Lamy saw more than his talent. She saw a partner, not just romantically, but in vision and in business. Lamy had experience. She understood branding, storytelling, and operations. Where Rick brought design, she brought infrastructure. She helped him legitimize his business, registering the label, organizing production, and financing collections. In 2001, Rick debuted his first full collection at New York Fashion Week, but it was the support of Vogue's Anna Wintour who funded the show through the CFDA, and Lamy's behind-the-scenes business moves that made it possible. As Rick focused on the product and the vision, Lamy took on the role of CEO. She negotiated production in Italy, handled finances, and built the supply chain. Their relationship blurred the line between love and business, but that chemistry translated into creative and commercial momentum. By 2003, they moved operations to Paris. That same year, Rick took a creative director role at Révillon, a legacy fur house, bringing him further industry clout and opening doors to European investors and distribution networks. Rick's designs were never meant to be mainstream, but they became cult essentials: geo baskets, sleeveless tunics, leather pods. His look became a lifestyle, and that lifestyle became a luxury business. While most brands chase trends, Rick and Lamy doubled down on consistency. They built a vertically integrated business, owning their stores, controlling production, and maintaining exclusivity. The result? A fashion label that makes millions annually without compromising artistic integrity. So the next time you see someone wearing Rick Owens, remember, it's not just fashion, it's the product of grit, partnership, and business done on their own terms. For any creative watching, maybe you don't need to find a Michelle, but you do need someone who helps you go from artist to entrepreneur. Rick Owens is more than a designer, he's a case study in creative entrepreneurship. Here's what we can learn. Vision alone isn't enough. Rick had the talent, but it wasn't until he partnered with someone who understood the business that things changed. Stay niche but scale smart. Rick never diluted his brand. Instead, he built a world around it. Own your infrastructure. From production to retail, vertical integration allowed full control of the brand narrative. Marry your mission, literally or metaphorically. Surround yourself with people who believe in your vision enough to build it with you. Michelle Lamy wasn't just Rick's muse, she was his co-founder. Without her, Rick Owens might have remained a name whispered in underground fashion circles. With her, he became a movement.